and welcome to Choices Global, a production of First Assembly of God, Wortmanville, Georgetown, Guyana. On this program, we curate and cultivate conversations pertinent to nation building, and in this case, our families. Our session today is the fourth edition in our marriage and family series, and our topic continues on building intimacy in marriages. Today, we have an awesome panel including Reverend Dr. Marcel Hudson and his lovely wife, Deborah Hudson. They are both educators in their professional lives, but they are also leaders of the First Assembly of God Parfaith Satellite with over 28 years of marriage. We have Reverend Randolph Singh and Norma Singh, long-standing members of the First Assembly of God Marriage and Family Department. They also minister to the Sunday School and Children's Ministry, and they have been married for a whopping 45 years. They all reside in Guyana, and I am here alongside Kurt, and we are the Corbins, who also sit on the Family and Marriage Department, and we have been married for 18 years come this September. And Kurt, I expect a wonderful celebration for that anniversary. We reside in Geneva, Switzerland, and I want to welcome our panelists and more so welcome you, our faithful viewers, to another exciting segment. In the previous edition, we reflected on the Latin origin of the word intimacy, and that was intimus, meaning innermost or deepest. The quality of a couple's intimacy is actually one of the most significant predictors of the relationship's health and stability. It means that healthy intimacy is associated with happiness, with commitment, and with physical and emotional well being, kind of like the glue that holds it all together. Well, today we want to provoke some reflections from our panelists on the ways that intimacy could be killed, or the converse, the ways in which we can build or rebuild intimacy in our marriages so that they can thrive. So, Norma, the first question will be for you and then to Deborah. Tell me, how does conflict in marriages fracture intimacy? And how can we rebuild that intimacy with our spouses? Norma, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's good to be here on this panel talking about intimacy. Now, conflict is inevitable. You have two individuals, human beings, created by God, but in their own individual, unique way, with everything unique about them. We are told that they don't have any copy of me, so I know there's no copy of my husband. Therefore, we would have different thoughts. Our minds will go in different directions. And he may see something one way, and I may see it another way. And therefore, that may result in a conflict. But for me, anything can be solved. As husband and wife, you have got to know when to be quiet. As I said before, you have got to be very observant. And if you know that whatever conflict you're having will escalate, just be quiet. Leave it alone and then return to that matter at some other time. If it is something that may not be so delicate, you can deal with it immediately. But the whole thing about this conflict is that you've got to know how to deal with it. As long as you're going to try to blame each other, as long as you're going to try to go back and unearth so many things that were said before and happened before, it's not going to work. There is no one, whether it's at home or in your workplace, that could say that you don't have conflicts. They will not be telling you the truth. Conflict is there, but we have got to know how to deal with it. That is why there are times when you've got to take your time and observe people, know their likes, know their dislikes, See how far you can go with whatever you are doing without hurting their feelings. And you will have a marriage that could go through. We all have struggles, but we have got to know how to overcome them because we've got to live together. As long as we are in this covenant relationship, whether we like it or not, we've got to stick it out. And therefore, we have got to learn how to come together, sit down, talk, and solve our problems. Okay, thank you.
Deborah, your take on what fractures intimacy and how we can rebuild?
Definitely miscommunication, and same miscommunication will cause conflict. But I think in all of this, we the enemy is so subtle. Sometimes I'm thinking your intention to sit and talk to your partner is not to have a conflict, but it's just to communicate exactly what you think or how you're feeling. And in the midst of that, I don't know. I think sometimes the enemy probably causes the wife, most of the times, it causes like he causes the wife's voices or what we have to say to sound as though we are rowing or we're fretting or we're coming to attack instead of making what we want to say come forward or go forward clearly. And out of that, your intention is good, and then you end up in this big feud and this misunderstanding, and like whatever you plan to say came out wrong, and it affects your partner, and that that miscommunication or that conflict, to me, that is a major distraction for intimacy. Because at the end of that, for me, I don't want kiss, I don't want hug, I don't touch me, because I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt. So conflict is a major, major part of killing intimacy, physically, mentally, spiritually, the entire thing. For me, rebuilding, I think of it as a team. I think we should see our marriages as team. TEAM. In a team, you'll have team players, or you have persons in this team having disagreements. You'll have their own opinions and all, but at the end of the day, this is Team Hudson, and your intention cannot be to fracture Team Hudson. Team Hudson has Yeshua in it. Team Hudson has so many other persons who are looking up and looking into Team Hudson can also be affected when Team Hudson goes left or goes south, as we would say. Think of your relationship as a team. And if you're coming to communicate, you're not coming to destroy your team, but you're going to bring an observation, or you're going to make a point that may not be so nice, but it's for you to check either persons who would be coming. If the children are coming into the relationship, into Team Hudson, to say, Mom, Dad, this is what would have happened, this is what I did, it's not time to war. It's team solution. So I see marriage as team, and I want to encourage us. Let us see our family unit as a team. Every member brings something to make that team stronger. Solving, we're coming to a solution with a conflict is important for the growth and the development of the team. I tried something yesterday. I said, you know what, my husband works very hard, and there's no doubt. So I called him up and I said, because you were so nice to me the night before, I'm taking you to lunch. And I took him to lunch, and I sat there and I watched him eat. And he even wanted to go into his wallet. Come on, husbands, y'all gotta allow the team member to, do the thing. So I didn't want him to do it. I wanted to spend, I wanted to bless him. I wanted to watch in his eyes. I wanted to watch how he chew. I wanted to feel good about that. And I'm happy that he allowed me to take him out yesterday. Those are some of the little things that we would have done in the past, and we have lost that. I want to encourage you viewers. This thing here is beautiful. This building of a family, building of a relationship, a lasting marriage is fun. You have your little funniness, the little salt, the little pepper, but there's a lots of sugar that you can bring. Just try the little surprises, the little things. I was talking to him on the phone and he said, "Where is lunch taking place?" And I'm walking in his office. So when I opened the door, I'm still on the phone with him. He was like, "What?" Shocked that I'm there. And I saw the light on his face. So those are some of the things that we can do to combat failing intimacy, combat conflict causing your intimacy to go sour. And but miscommunication is a major issue in relationships and intimacy. But think of it as TEAM, Team Hudson, Team Carbon, Team Sing. Team members do not destroy a team. We build and we strengthen our team.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm loving this. So, viewers, for more tips like these, please check Debbie. So, this was awesome, and I love the team concept. So, I think I'm going to shift a little bit because I've heard us talk about, cautioning on what could fracture or separate us from intimacy. And Debbie just gave us examples of how we can rebuild. I've always challenged Kurt. I love dancing, and so does he. So I'm like, Kurt, let's just do it in the living room. And then this is an opportunity for the kids to see and enjoy and laugh about it. But as we continue on this interesting journey and conversation, I read an article recently, and the article was capturing, God's intent for marriages, and it says that, the creator of marriages, as the creator of marriages, God desires marriages to thrive, and then he likened it onto a garden that has, beautiful flowers, azaleas and roses, but then there's also the little dry bush or hedges that they're a bit stagnant and need a bit of watering. And I think this is what Deborah and Norma were speaking to. And then there was this warning about several types of marriages that will not experience intimacy. And so while we want to talk about the positives, we also want to raise your awareness as viewers and to ourselves, because we're talking to ourselves as well, on the types of things that we need to cut out of that garden so that it continues to look beautiful and thrive. And so, one of the examples, and I'm going to ask you as panelists to comment on three of them. And one of the first types of marriages that he says will never experience intimacy is the score-keeping marriage. He talks about this marriage where we're always competing and we're not complementing each other. And then he goes on to say, and whoever thought up of the concept of a tie, he's like, no, that is not what I like. I don't like losing. I don't like tying. I only want to win. But in a marriage, can we really win? And Kurt, this question is really for you. What are your thoughts on the scorekeeping or the competitive marriage where two spouses are competing rather than complementing each other?
Thank you, Siobhan. Ah, I will just put it out there immediately. The scorekeeping marriage, in my humble opinion, wouldn't work. And or a competitive marriage, and I can testify to that because I've experienced, or I was in a situation where I could have been keeping score with you, my wonderful wife. Um, you, it hinders progress. We're talking about intimacy. It hinders intimacy. Both of us cannot strive at the same time. Some one of us may be in a better paying job, may be in a better situation, may come from a better familial situation in terms of legacy and inheritance and so forth. And if the other partner decides that they want to compete, they want to be just like their partner, male or female. I cannot stand this. I want to achieve this doctorate too. I want to don't it's not wrong. We're speaking of in the competitive nature that you will go for this in spite of whatever, despite whatever you are going because my spouse, my partner has it. So I need to be like my partner. I need to be there. No one is saying that you don't have to be there. But how do you go about doing that? Are you going to go about doing that by killing the intimacy that we have, our emotional and spiritual and physical, because we won't be touching each other anymore. Deborah mentioned about the conflict, and if it comes to that level, she doesn't want to be touched anymore. I may not want to be touched anymore. I may not want to be doing things to you anymore. And why? Because of that war, competition, that competitiveness that one of us may have for material things. Reverend Singh spoke about in a previous program about the oneness, about one flesh. So if we're one, whatever you achieve, I also achieve. And some of us may not achieve the same level of accreditation or validation in this moment, maybe even in this life. And the first thing to understand, the first thing we need to accept is we need to understand this. We may achieve it or we may not achieve it. I want to go back to the manual of living, Siobhan. Adam and Eve were both naked and they knew no shame. We're talking about intimacy. And nakedness in this way, I don't want to limit it to just being physically naked. They were both naked and they knew no shame, meaning they shared, meaning they understood, meaning everything that they did, it was for each other, every single thing. He was happy when he saw her. She was happy when she saw him, and they worked together. The working together means sometimes one of us may have to forego something. It means sometimes one of us we allow the other to go ahead. Why? Because it is wise to do so. Why? Because we want the oneness to work. We want the nakedness, we want the trust, we want the vulnerability to not be influenced negatively. Because once we lose trust, it is very difficult to regain that. So, competitiveness in the marriage, Madam Moderator, it wouldn't work if it comes forward in a negative manner.
I
Thank you.
definitely hear you. So, viewers, what Kurt is saying is that the score on this marriage or any marriage should be 0-0 because we are not competing. I want to reflect a bit more on the author. And then he said things like, sometimes his wife or your spouse would get you upset. And then what you do is you pull out the scorecard. But you did this to me the other day, and you did this to me last year. Again, we want to reiterate the score should be 0-0, meaning it's written off every day before we go to bed. And then there's the caution that these kinds of marriages will rob it of intimacy because we are operating from a place of manipulation, a place of fear, a place of what we call trash talking to gain advantage. And so we just wanted to raise this kind of awareness. Dr. Hudson, I'm coming to you with the next question. And this is another kind of marriage. And this one they call the controlling marriage. And in the controlling marriage, the author reflects on the fact that that kind of marriage does not have authenticity nor vulnerability. And coincidentally, that was the concept Kurt just referenced. So, Dr. Hudson, tell us what are the pitfalls of a controlling marriage and how we should get out of it.
Thank you again. I think that word in the context of a marriage, it spells disaster. I want to be brutally frank on that. It spells disaster. Remember, human beings, humans are social beings. They are, they have a mind, they have a will, they have emotions. And for you to attempt to put that in a box, what you're doing is setting up a situation for disaster. Um, any relationships, any relationship rather, where a person is being kept locked away, they could only move when you say move. They could only do things when you say do things and so on. That wouldn't suffice. The marriage is not going to last because people are so designed to relate. They are so designed to commune with other people and so on. I have known of situations where um, husbands hire people to watch where their wives are going and so on. Listen, if that is you're in a setting like that, you're wasting your time. Um, I have known of situations where every place that the wife goes, or even the husband, there's a tracker. Somebody has to say, and then you have to file a report when you return, and those kinds of things. That wouldn't work. God did not design marriage to be like that. Marriage is a mutual relationship where people are able to do and to share, of course, with an understanding that this is where they're going, what they want to do, and so on. So the whole issue to control, that's like witchcraft. You don't have a marriage there if you want to be controlling the ideas, controlling the views, controlling whatever happens, and so on. What about the other person, be it male or female? They have ideas too? Can they think for themselves? Do they have thoughts, and so on? And so those kinds of relationships, and you have relationships like that, but those kinds of relationships, they wouldn't last, because at the end of the day, people want to be free, not free to do anything, but there must be a liberty in a relationship. When I say liberty, that people could go places, could talk, could meet friends. There's some people can't even talk to some people because this is how the wife feels or the husband feels. No, that kind of thing, um, it would not work. And let me back up quickly on the issue of the competition and so on. I believe every relationship, there should be a desire to see everyone in that relationship thrive. When I met um, Deborah, she'll tell you. When I met Deborah, she was a junior teacher, and I made sure that she came up. She became a trained teacher. When she went to University of Guyana, I invested in her. When she completed her degree, I invested in her masters. I paid large sums of money for her to do her masters, and so on, because this one flesh thing, you understand me? There's no room for being envious. And like you said, Court, if a relationship is genuine, there will be no control, there will be no competition because the relationship is genuine. Wherever you find that relationships are not genuine, you will see signs of those things because of a level of insecurity that starts to creep in. When people become insecure, when they become afraid, you see those kinds of maneuvering. I compete with you. I always tell people, if Deborah was to be the president of the United States of America, or the president of Guyana, or the president of any place, I would be so happy to know that my wife is the president, because, Court, whatever she drives, I will be driving. Whatever money she earns, I will be enjoying some of that. But people got a problem with that. People got a problem with people excelling, because in their small mind is that this person will pass me, go past me, and I will be on them. So what? You understand me? If you understand who God is, you will rest yourself. Those are my views.
Wow. Debbie, just look how you coming along with your handsome first man, not first lady. Well done, Dr. Hudson. So I'm going to come to Reverend Singh next, but as we wrap up on the controlling marriage, we want to caution and remind you authenticity and vulnerability is important. And we heard Dr. Hudson long and hard as he was challenging us. The author reflected on the fact that controllers only pretend to have it together. And ironically, the very thing that they use to acquire success in the real world is what destroys their marriage, and that is this dominance. Controlling people want to manipulate, they want to isolate. We heard Dr. Hudson talk about that, and then they degrade you in order to get their way. And in that kind of a situation, there is no joy, and where there is no joy and no peace and no love, then intimacy cannot thrive. And so, Reverend Singh, we want to talk about another kind of marriage, and this one is and I'm putting you on the spot, the me, my, and mine marriage. They're talking about this one where one spouse is a taker. They look for us to fulfill their own needs. And so, Reverend Singh, you do a lot of counseling. Please caution us, tell us, how can we come back or walk back from that kind of a marriage?
Thank you. It's good we could spend quality time on this program with dealing with marriage. One of our judge in this court, he made a comment: the divorce rate is too high, especially in the church. We don't understand about marriage. God ordained marriage, and anything that God ordained or created is perfect. Marriage is not ordained by the church nor the state, by God. And may I say this, that no marriage is perfect. Marriage is always, every single day, work in progress. We have different challenges, different problems every single day. What we may encounter yesterday, we may not encounter today. But we have to make up our minds that every single day we have to work on our marriage. God never bring two perfect people together. No. I look at marriage. We are married for 45 years, and it's two imperfect people with imperfect lips that God has brought together, and we have to complement each other. We have to look at the strengths and the weaknesses of each other, and we have to work with each other. As it was said earlier, it's a team. We have to identify in our spouse some of the weaknesses and help. We all need help. I need help from my wife. My wife needs help from me. We need help in our marriages. And so we have to help each other. Marriage, every single day, as I said, there's so many challenges. We have gone too far. There's a breakdown in marriage. Now we have got to work on our marriage. We have to bring back what was there before. Remember when we just got married, what we used to do for a spouse, the quality time we spend with them. We take them out, we buy gifts, we do this, we do that. What happened now? We take things for granted. No, marriage is not for children. We must not take these things for granted. We have to look with two eyes every single day. Look at what is causing the downfall, what is causing the problem in our marriage. We have to have sharp eyes to see what is happening, and don't take things for granted that it's going to work itself out. No. One of the mistakes we make is that we push these things under the carpet. We tell ourselves, okay, it is not important. It's going to come back to haunt us. We need to deal with it. I always believe whatever problem arises for the day, I must be able to deal with it. Let me give you an example. In my marriage, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. We have challenges, we have problems. But I learned something. I learned a little secret of being successful in marriage. And you know what I do? I blame myself many times. Many times when I look at the problems that is created in the marriage, I blame myself. And I said to myself, I am the guilty partner. There are times what I would do, instead of arguing, my wife said to me over and over, my mouth is not lazy. And she's correct. But then I learned something. When I realized that there's a problem and I'm trying to deal with it, my wife is always, you know, collective. She's always cool, calm, and collective. And so I find myself rowing and fretting, and I said to myself something, you are a stupid big man. Your wife is silent, and you're rowing, and you know what I do? I stop and I go in my bed and I just lie down. Sometimes my wife will come to me and she said, you want something to eat? But I'm vexed and I don't want it to escalate further. So I said, no, I'm hungry. But I'm lying there. I'm not speaking the truth. I want something to eat. Bring peace. I said to her, no, I don't want anything to eat. I want to challenge you, viewers. Marriage is important, it is sacred. You cannot afford to lose. You cannot afford. As a matter of fact, in marriage, there is no loser, there is no winner. We're all together in it. We have to fight for each other. We have to make sure that each other is being protected. Don't pull your spouse down. Don't call your spouse name. Don't be violent toward your spouse. Don't do things. Look at the likes and dislikes of your spouse. Marriage is with us every single day. Yes. And so we have to take it serious. We have to understand that this is from God and God give us the best. Do you know you have the best wife? Do you know you have the best husband? Let me say this to you. Those of you who are thinking of running out of your marriage, those of you who are thinking of filing for divorce, listen to this. You know who you have. You don't know who you will be getting. You understand this? You know who you have. You know that you could handle that situation. You could deal with that problem. You don't run out from the frying pan, as we say, into the fire. Cherish what you have. Be thankful for who you have. Care who you have. Protect who you have. Fight for your marriage. You are not a loser. You may
Amen.
have problems. There's some people make a mistake and we go for advice, but we go for advice to people who are going through the same problems like we're going through. What advice could they
Yeah,
give you?
yeah,
Don't make
yeah.
the mistake. Don't make the mistake. Don't go to people who are going through the same problems that you or who are having the same problems that
Wow.
you're having. They cannot advise you. I want you to, we want you on this panel to seek God. We want you to fight for your marriage. In your vocab, there must be nothing like divorce. In the book of Malachi, we're not preaching, but we're trying to help you. God says, I hate divorce. Stick with your spouse. In my closing remarks, I'm going to repeat myself because there's a saying repetition is elasticity. You know who you have, you don't know who you will be getting. Fight for your marriage, and at the end, you will be successful. God bless you.
Wow, 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 wow. That was powerful. And viewers, you need to heed this because if you missed the last program, I was reflecting on how Kurt and I are students of the Sings. You know, they were part of our premarital counseling group, and they have, by God's grace and wisdom, they have helped us to 18 years. And so when we think about the Sing celebrating 45 years and the Hudson celebrating, remind me, Elder Deborah, the 28. Wow, wow. And Kurt, we are still teenagers in this, but we're coming up slowly and we're coming up
Surely,
nicely. So,
slowly and
you know,
surely.
Amen. You know, as I listen to all of the, and time is now with us, but as I listen to each of you, and as we share with the viewers on the importance of cultivating intimacy, you know, I was reflecting on how if we want to see joy in our marriages, we have to be givers. I read somewhere that selflessness is the oxygen that that marriages need. You know, we need to be selfless. We need to create safe spaces. We need to be authentic. We need to operate with empathy. We must see maturity in our marriages. And so these kinds are forms of bad behaviors that show up in marriages. We just really wanted to take the opportunity to share that with you. Kurt, I'll ask as my co moderator for any wrap up remarks you have, and then I will bring the curtains down.
Thank you, Siobhan. Quickly, thank you for that. Thank you, all panelists. We didn't get to discuss it, but I will throw it out there. We were also asking, we wanted to ask about the sex only marriage, if that would work. And I would want to posit here today that sex alone in a marriage could only sustain you for so long. Firstly, the woman the woman, yes, your wife, she would only look beautiful to you or be attractive for a certain amount of time if you're only looking at sex. But if you're talking about intimacy, which is what we're discussing here, which encompasses sex, emotions, and every single thing, then only then that type of marriage would last, because to lead to sex, for a woman, there's an emotional aspect of it before we get to the physical aspect. The woman has to be in the right frame of mind. She has to be, and we can go on and on and on, but in the interest of time, my co-moderator, and to our viewers out there, the sex only or the sex alone marriage, that is also a no starter. So let us go for the full package of being intimate, Siobhan.
Wow. The full package is what I'm taking from the next second, Kurt. So, panelists, you guys were awesome in your sharing. You yourselves were authentic, and really, we took away so many bits and pieces, so many nuggets of value. And so, I hope that our viewers, they have tuned in. They can hit this on replay, share it with a friend. As we wrap up, I want to come back to this author that I've been contemplating, and the fact that operating on kingdom principles, this author signal that intimacy is actually a fruit of the marriage. An intimate marriage is a healthy marriage. And where intimacy is lacking, something has happened, and we need to rebuild it. We need to fix it. We need to water it with good water. And I think many of the examples given by our panelists will serve to help you and help your marriages to thrive. I really hope that you will tune in to the next episode on the 16th of July at 5 p.m. Please keep in touch with us at faogw.org and our YouTube channel, Choices Global. I am Chevon Corbin, alongside my not only lovely but handsome husband, Kurt Corbin, your co moderators for today, encouraging you to write positive stories in your marriages and your families. This is Choices Global.